Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the Canadian North, and specifically to Mississauga Lake Provincial Park in northern Ontario. The topography of this area consists of rolling forested lowlands under 1,500 feet in elevation. The land has been shaped by eons of glacial activity grinding the mountains down into rounded hills, with valleys filled with till, or soil derived from ground rock. The trees of this area range from dense stands of jack pine, white birch, and poplar scattered throughout pine forests. The waters here are extremely productive for fishermen. Common animals of the area include white-tailed deer, moose, and possibly woodland caribou, and a few elk. The predators of this area include lynx, wolves, and black bear. Jacqueline Perry and Mark Jordan were both about 30 years old and were marking their 4th anniversary by spending 2 weeks kayaking in the provincial park. They would kayak through their day and find a camping spot to lay out their tents and bedrolls to spend romantic night after night under the stars together. Jacqueline was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and was a practicing family doctor at Grandview Medical Center in Cambridge, Ontario. Mark was a software developer and a scout leader who enjoyed relaying his knowledge of the outdoors to the next generation. Both were very much in love with each other. They were avid outdoors fanatics and spent a lot of their free time outside together whenever they had the chance. As they kayaked along the lakeshore on September 6, 2005, they arrived at the campground they were planning on spending the night. They paddled up to the shore and disembarked their 2-person kayak with their camping gear. The couple had spent a lot of time meticulously planning their excursion and set up their impromptu kitchen to make their dinner for the evening. In all of their planning, they did not choose to bring a firearm nor bear spray. They didn't even bring a large knife as a weapon, as they had never had a problem with any animals during their adventures. As the savory scent of their meal wafted through the brush and foliage of the area, the couple was unaware that an uninvited dinner guest was planning on a very tragic visit with them soon. As the couple was cooking their meal, there began a rustling in the bushes behind them. As they glanced toward the noise, a small and thin black bear emerged from the brush with its head low. It slowly began walking toward the couple and angled toward Jacqueline. The couple yelled at the bear, hoping to scare it away. Mark was under the impression that if you are confronted by an aggressive bear in the backcountry, you simply need to assert yourself and impress upon the bear that you are in charge. But his misunderstanding of what exactly motivated the bear was a dramatic misconception of the danger that it presented to them. The bear slowly continued forward toward the couple as Mark yelled and confronted the bear. Before Mark could effectively drive the bear off, it quickly pulled Jacqueline to the ground and began biting and clawing her. It was tossing its head back and forth as it bit her and tore her flesh. It clawed her neck and head severely as it bit her. They began dragging her from the campground and into the nearby bushes. Mark wrapped his arm around the bear's neck and began punching it. It was then that the bear released Jacqueline and began to focus its attack on Mark. As the bear wrestled with Mark, he used his Swiss Army knife to stab the bear, but the bear did much more damage to him than the other way around. The bear swatted and bit Mark several times, causing gashes and cuts to his arms and hands. He had slash wounds from its claws over other parts of his body as well, but continued to fight for his and his wife's life. After what seemed like hours, but was only a few minutes, the bear backed off. The wounds inflicted by Mark's knife were not fatal, but served as a deterrent to make the bear reconsider its plan of attack on the couple. Mark took this opportunity to scoop up his wife and carry her toward the shore. He laid her down in the kayak and pushed off from the shore to get away. He knew, judging by her injuries, that he had to get her medical assistance immediately, or she may die. He paddled strenuously, as he knew they had several miles to go before the possibility of finding anyone who could help. As Mark paddled, Jacqueline struggled to maintain consciousness. He was concerned she might fall overboard and would pull her closer to him to make sure she didn't. He yelled for help from the shore as he paddled through the inky night for the better part of a mile. His cries for help were heard by a father and son camping along the shore for the night. They were visiting from Pennsylvania and directed Mark to their boat. The men moved Jacqueline aboard the larger vessel and then headed out toward the park office when they came across another boat. In this vessel, a doctor from North Carolina and an off-duty police officer welcomed the injured couple and began triaging their injuries with first aid as the boat was piloted further along the route toward the park office. The boat trip was about 10 miles, but traveling by boat is much different than traveling by car. It takes more time and is dependent upon the conditions on the water and any currents that may be in it. During the trip, Jacqueline passed away from blood loss from her injuries from the bear attack. After arriving at the park office, Mark was rushed to Sudbury Medical Center and was stabilized. He underwent surgery and received 300 stitches to close the wounds the bear attack had inflicted. Authorities ordered the park to be cleared of all visitors as they searched for the wounded bear beginning on September 6th. At around 8 a.m. on Saturday, September 10th, Ministry of Natural Resources officers tracked the bear down and killed it. They'd been on its trail for a while, and their persistence finally paid off. It had a knife wound to its neck that was inflicted by Mark during his attempt to drive it off from his wife. The bear's carcass was sent to the MNR Research Laboratory for analysis. It was found to be a male black bear that was nearly grown, but very thin and probably in a state of starvation. The attack probably occurred due to the poor health of the bear, who was facing hibernation with nowhere near the body weight it would take to survive the winter. The investigators continued to process the attack scene to gather more evidence. Mark was awarded the Star of Courage from then-Governor General Michael Jean. He suffered mental anguish from the death of his wife, feeling like he should have done more to stop the attack. He is quoted as saying, "If you have the ability to walk up to a bear, put your arm around its neck, and put it into a headlock and bludgeon it a bit, I could have easily used my knife to literally slit its throat. I expected to be able to just scare it off." He continues with, "My understanding of aggressive bears at the time was you just had to scare them, show them who's the boss." It is easy to second-guess yourself in a situation like this, but everyone's first survival instinct is to flee for safety, or at least seek it in a relative degree. Mark's propensity to ascribe the traits of failure or timidity is common, but is not a realistic perspective under circumstances of extreme duress, like a bear attack always is. Tell me what you think about Mark's response to the attack on himself and his wife. Do you think his response was appropriate, or was he too reluctant? If you found yourself in a similar situation, how do you think you would respond? Do you think you would be as brave as Mark was during a similar situation? Please post your comments below in the comments section, and let's talk about it. Mark retells the story of the attack at special events periodically, only leaving out his wife's last words to him. His friends and family hesitate to discuss the event with him for fear of drawing his attention back to such a tragic and traumatic memory. Keith Scott, who is a bear expert with the Ministry of Natural Resources, states that these kinds of attacks are very rare. He cites that there have only been 4 fatal bear attacks in all of Ontario dating back to 1978. He also states that this attack was predatory in nature, and that bears have learned to, and often do, prey on humans. Jacqueline became the first person to be killed by a bear in Ontario in 13 years. Although fatal bear attacks are uncommon here, bear confrontations are not as rare. In early September of the same year, a black bear killed a man, and 1 week later, another man fended off an attack. In the province of Alberta, there were 4 grizzly bear attacks, with one leading to a fatality of a female jogger, which we will cover in a later episode. In British Columbia, another woman was mauled in May of the same year. Shout out to J.P. Couric for requesting we discuss this episode. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the Catskill Mountains in east-central New York State. The climate here is a warm summer, humid continental climate, which brings warm, humid summers and mild but very snowy winters. Catskill Park makes up the majority of what is considered the Catskills, with 700,000 acres of mountainous forests. Common trees here include balsam fir, 3 types of maple trees, a few oak species, and 3 types of birch trees. Along bodies of water, you'll find several species of dogwood, willow, and alder bushes, as well as various berry bushes crowding the banks. They provide shade and shelter for white-tailed deer, squirrels, and wild turkeys. Predators prowl the shadows here and include bobcats, coyotes, cougars, and black bears. Nestled into this lush and bucolic environment is the resort town of Fallsburg. Dotted with bungalow and cabin developments, it is a preferred location for mountain biking, waterfront recreation, and getting away from the big city. Black bears are common visitors around the town, with the local police department receiving dozens of calls weekly from concerned citizens. In August, a black bear even leapt through a screen door after smelling the tempting scent of chocolate chip cookies the homeowner was cooking. They raid bird feeders and garbage cans, but most always disappear into the forest at the first sight of a human. Almost always. The Schwimmer family was visiting a bungalow in Fallsburg for the summer and lived in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. They were prominent members of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community and known as wonderful and exceptional people there. There is no source indicating that the Schwimmers were packing bear spray or a firearm along with them on their vacation. Around 2 p.m. on August 19, 2002, Rachel was with her two older children, 4-year-old Joseph and 2.5-year-old Chaya, while 5-month-old Esther slept in her stroller on the porch a few yards away. Pincus was the proud father of the family and was busy taking care of a few things inside the house when a terrifying shout pierced his ears and changed his life forever. "Bear! Bear! Bear!" shouted one of the Schwimmers' neighbors. Rachel quickly glanced around and directed Joseph and Shia into the house. She was in too much of a hurry to know that she was being followed very closely by a dangerous visitor. Rachel managed to get Joseph and Shia inside before turning around to dash back to the porch to retrieve Esther within a few seconds. Upon returning to the porch, Rachel could see Esther's stroller had been tipped over, but Esther was nowhere to be found. While searching for her daughter, Rachel observed a black bear slowly walking away, with Esther dangling from its mouth like a little doll. That's when the rest of the community began to get involved in a big way. A small crowd of neighbors mustered the bravery to confront the black bear. They yelled and threw sticks and stones at the bear, trying to scare it into dropping baby Esther from its jaws. Pincus ran to cut the bear off from its intended retreat into the forest. He angled his way between the bear and the trees, and received a few claw wounds for his efforts. Trailing the bear, the angry and raucous mob continued to yell and throw things at it, until, in an open field midway between the woods and her family's cabin, baby Esther was recovered by her father. Now completely bewildered, the bear scampered up a tree for safety. Baby Esther was gathered up in the arms of her father and brought back to the cabin. A hysterical crowd of neighbors wept and lamented at the sight of baby Esther and her wounds. An ambulance showed up soon after a 911 call was placed. Esther was rushed to Ellenville Hospital, where she was pronounced dead by 3 p.m. from severe neck and head trauma. In keeping with traditions of their faith, a hurried funeral service was arranged in Orange County to bury Esther by sundown on the day of her death. This is the first bear attack many had heard of in decades-long careers. Officer David Decker searched the forest for a clue to the bear's location and discovered it in the trees. The bear wasn't afraid of his approach, but soon dashed back up a nearby tree. Decker stated he fired a single shot into the bear's rib cage, but the necropsy reported the bear's carcass having been shot 4 times, one of which was in the head. The community was overcome with sorrow, as the news of Esther's death permeated their hearts. Many packed up and left upon hearing the tragic news. Only 30 minutes after her attack, police reported a second sighting of a bear, but it couldn't be found by police who were already in the area. The necropsy on the black bear showed it to be a 3-year-old male weighing around 170 pounds. Testing for rabies and West Nile virus were negative, eliminating disease as a contributing factor to Esther's attack. The bear's stomach contents were analyzed and revealed small plastic bags and fruit labels mixed in with natural food sources, proving the bear had been raiding area garbage cans. Wildlife specialists initially claimed the bear may have grabbed the baby out of curiosity, more than out of predatory motives. They cited the idea that babies have scented powders and milk on their bodies and clothes. Additionally, they proposed the baby may have had some kind of attractant in her diaper. They tried to allay residents' fears of a repeat attack, but those same warnings would have been expected for Esther's attack. Esther Schwimmer was only the second person to have been killed by a black bear in any eastern U.S. forest in recorded history, and the first of this century. Esther was the 15th person killed by a black bear in the U.S. in 100 years. Wow, this episode tore me up. Having lost 2 children of my own, I can identify with the pain of Esther's parents and family. I'm sure they still think of her and remember her fondly. After reviewing the facts surrounding the fatal bear attack on Esther Schwimmer, I'm left with a few questions for you. Was the second bear that appeared on the scene the initial bear's littermate? Were they searching for food together and stumbled into this tragedy? Was this bear brought in by the scent of milk on the baby's clothes, or was this attack an opportunistic predatory attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to a subdivision on Jacob's Ladder Road, near a town called Mountaintop in Wright Township of Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. The elevation in this area is around 1,500 feet, and the rolling hills are packed with fir trees, 3 species of maple, 3 species of birch, as well as serviceberry and muskwood. Bushes like elderberry and chokeberry provide shelter along the ground and yield their seasonal fruits to humans and animals. Common and plentiful animals here include elk, turkey, and white-tailed deer. The predators of this area include bobcats, coyotes, and black bears. About 110 miles to the southeast is the big city of Philadelphia, but state wildlife officers have declared all of Pennsylvania as bear country. Around Mountaintop, black bears have become a more common sight in the last few years. A longtime resident reported seeing only 2 black bears during his 22 years in the subdivision, but one of those sightings was of a bear running off with a 50-pound bag of bird feed it had snatched from his garage. Residents here have been feeding birds for decades, but this fat-rich food is also a preferred food source for a growing population of black bears. Jacob's Ladder Road has a few subdivisions that protrude into the surrounding forest. It is a beautiful location, cloaked by largely uninterrupted stretches of forest for tens of miles to the east. It's just the kind of habitat where bears can live and never see a human being, unless they choose to. In the world of bears, particular noises are more interesting than others. Whenever their cubs are in trouble, they have their own version of a distress cry, and sows respond to it with thunder and lightning. Many of the young prey animals they feed on, such as calf elk, fawn deer, and injured rabbits, emit a high-pitched scream or cry to locate their mothers, or as a sign of general distress. There's no way of knowing if the cries of playing children sound like any of these sounds, but it may have been a factor in today's episode. On May 2nd, 2023, a 5-year-old child, whom we'll call Jimmy, and his 14-year-old sister, whom we'll call Jill, were playing in their driveway. It was common to see the neighborhood children playing in the forest around the subdivision, and Jimmy and Jill's outdoor fun was just another day of laughter and enjoyment for them. All around the children's home, the trees pushed in very close to every house in their neighborhood, giving each one a feeling of privacy and isolation. The dense undergrowth not only granted the residents solitude, it also allowed wildlife to come within a few yards of homes in secrecy. As the children played outside, their mother took care of chores and kept an eye out for the kids. Jimmy's mama heard him crying out for her and emerged from the home to see a horrifying sight. A black bear had emerged from the brush near the home and had set its focus on her babies. As she ran toward the bear, it fled, leaving her children injured and bleeding, but alive. She quickly loaded them into the family vehicle and drove them to Wilkes-Barre General Hospital, about 12 miles to the north as the crow flies. Once the children were admitted to the emergency room, they were treated for bear bites and claw wounds. Though their injuries were not life-threatening, the incident was very concerning to residents and wildlife officials. Authorities immediately knew they needed to make sure the citizens were safe. Based on the description of the bear from the children's mother, they knew that they had no chance of differentiating the bear that attacked the children from the others. They decided to set out 2 culvert traps around the subdivision to see if they could catch the bear before it could attack anyone else. Jimmy and Jill's clothing was swabbed for DNA from the bear's saliva, and the samples were rushed to Dr. Jane Huffman of the Wildlife Genetics Institute at East Stroudsburg University in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. A DNA profile was pulled from the samples, and now the wildlife officers had to track the bear down that matched it. The Pennsylvania Game Commission monitored the traps and captured a bear in each trap on the evening of May 27th. One of the bears was a boar, and the other was a sow, and both appeared healthy.
DNA samples were pulled from both bears and rushed to Dr. Huffman for comparison to samples pulled from the clothing. After a few days, the results were back. They revealed that the boar was not involved in the attack on the children, but the sow was involved. She was immediately euthanized, and her remains were examined for rabies. The rabies test is done only after the animal is dead, so her euthanization was part of the investigation. She was not found to have the disease, which allayed fears of officials as well as area residents. The boar was relocated to a remote stretch of forest far from the subdivision in hopes it would establish itself there, away from people. The Pennsylvania Game Commission estimates that the state has a healthy population of 15,000 black bears. Statements were issued to the public citing that the reasons for the attack on the children were unknown, but could have been caused by a bear being cornered by the curious children. They stated that dogs may trigger attacks, but the children were not accompanied by a dog. Black bear sightings in Pennsylvania have been rising, alarmingly around larger cities. They have been reported in Philadelphia, Montgomery, Bucks, Delaware, and Chester counties, and have been caught on security cameras mounted at homes many times. Black bears have been observed in Highland Park and Hill District in the city of Pittsburgh, less than 1 mile from downtown. I could find no source that indicated any city in Pennsylvania has a bear hazing program to drive bears away from urban areas. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I have a few questions for you. Do you think development is encroaching on black bear habitat in Pennsylvania? Would a municipal hazing program receive your support if you lived there? Was this bear trying to eat the children, or was it somehow cornered by them? Do you think the bear would have killed or severely injured Jimmy and Jill if it hadn't been driven off by their mother? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.